Hi everyone. Thanks very much for joining us. We're just going to give people 1 more minute and then we'll kick off with our lunchtime briefing. Thanks.
Good afternoon all. On behalf of the Energy Cork cluster, I'd like to welcome you all to this lunchtime briefing looking at a way that businesses can improve and certify the improvement of their sustainability in energy, carbon, water and waste. We're delighted to be hosting this event as part of our lunchtime briefing series to further the discussion around how businesses of every sector and scale can take responsibility for their own sustainability, their energy use, greenhouse gas emissions, waste and resource use. Earlier this year, we heard about some supports from Enterprise Ireland and the IDA for their clients around sustainability, and recently launched Screen for Micro scheme run for the local enterprise offices. You can learn more by watching those videos on our website. Today's briefing will also be available there shortly as well. Today, we're going to be hearing from Bobby Lambert, the Business Development Director at EcoMerit, about the EcoMerit network and how it works and can benefit your business and organization. We're also delighted to be joined by Margo Krempska from Coral Leisure in Cobh and Thomas McHugh from Cork Chamber, headquartered here in the city. Margo and Thomas are members of the EcoMerit network and will give us their insights as participants. We'll aim to finish on time at 1:45 and hopefully have time for Q&A at the end. Do let us have your questions via the chat function here. Importantly, Energy Cork hosted events would not be possible without the ongoing support of Cork County Council, Cork City Council, through the respective economic development funds and the continued help of Cork Chamber. A couple of items of housekeeping. It should be already done so by default, but please keep your microphone on mute for the duration of the event. As mentioned, we'll have a short Q&A session following the presentations. Please use the chat function to ask any questions you might have. This event is being recorded and will be shared online afterwards. And so I'd like to introduce Bobby Lambert, who's the Business Development Manager at EcoMerit. Bobby is the Business Development Director of EcoMerit, a sustainable energy community registered with the SEAI, which provides environmental certification and support to enterprises in Ireland. A chartered member of Engineers Ireland with a lifelong interest in environmental matters, he enjoys working on business planning and marketing. His career includes 10 years as CEO of an NGO and 12 years as a consultant, much of it in training. He is particularly keen on the potential for resource efficiency in combating climate change. Over to you, Bobby.
Thanks very much, Harry. Pleasure to be here. I'll try and twiddle the knobs here and get the share screen up. So get a little. Now, let me get that sorted. How are we doing there? Looking good. Okay. Thanks very much for that. Yeah, pleasure to be joining Cork, looking at this topic of improving environmental and business performance. And great to be working with Energy Cork and the Cork Chamber and all of that, strong Cork connection. So that's great. We are actually, as EcoMerit, a member of Cork Chamber. So that's it's good to be part of this. As Harry said, EcoMerit is a sustainable energy community. It's registered with the SEAI. We've over 100 members, all shapes and sizes. Been going since 2009. our members collectively have delivered over 9% a year in greenhouse gas emissions. That's more than 50% in 10 years. Pretty startling statistic when you look at the challenges Ireland face. And our certification, the credibility of that is overseen by an independent oversight board. The only thing I'd add to the introduction by Harry is that one of my favorite spots is Cork and the Raven on the Wexford coast. Lambert, you might guess, has Wexford connections there. So that's, and hope to meet you in the hurling at some point this year. Now I'm trying to get the knob here. There we are. Just a little quote this morning about why this is all important. Sinead Hickey at John Sisk and Son, well-known engineering company, talking about the need for Irish business, essentially to get our act together and to get going and take action. There's a lot of talk, but let's have action. And the importance of validation and verification, milestones, a roadmap, not greenwashing, and credibility and annual reporting. This is all part of what EcoMerit does. So we are delighted to see this type of thing being flagged so importantly today. So just to, as I mentioned there, just to put up in front, EcoMerit, we're talking on the basis of experience and a track record that goes back to, well, it originally got going around about 2008. A certification and support system that was designed to help Irish business, to focus on SMEs, but it's appropriate for pretty much any size organization. We have some quite big members as well as some very small members. As I mentioned, average emission reductions in excess of 9% a year, over 10 years across 109 sites. Also saving money, and that 8,000 figure that's quoted there is an average saving. Sometimes it's less, sometimes much more. Similarly with the average savings of CO2 equivalent on greenhouse gas. And at the bottom, we can help you get the money to do this. We work with people who want to get funding from SEAI, and we have a 100% success rate on what can be a tricky journey there. So some very practical help there that's available. One little thing I'd like to point out on the graph there is that the thick orange line is the overall performance of EcoMerit members in reduction. And the other lines indicate that the journey is a very individual one. It can, nothing much might happen for a couple of years while things are being developed, and then you get payback, or for sometimes you get a quick response in year one. So it very much depends on each organization and where they are at. What are the secrets of success in embarking on this journey? And we'll see how this tallies with what Margo and Thomas are going to say. But the first one that we see is a commitment that there has to be a commitment from the top by each organization that's getting involved in this journey. And then a policy statement so that everybody in the organization, in the enterprise, in the business knows that this matters throughout the organization and will be supported from the top. Then a bit more practically, analysis and plans that links to the SBT there, the science-based targets idea, but you get the data, look at the data, do review. Some of it is looking at the bill, some of it is walking around and assessment, and we help, EcoMerit helps in this process. And then get going. So again, there'll be a plan. There's some things that may be obvious, some quick wins. That's good for building encouragement and getting people moving, all of that. So get started. And very importantly, measure what you're doing, know your performance. And this helps you know what works and what doesn't work, because you can put a lot of time into doing the wrong thing, delivering very little benefit. So it's good to know what works. And then probably the most important thing is persistence, that this is not a quick fix. It's keep going over 5 years, at least 5 years, probably longer, but think of a 5-year plan. And then get support. Support is around in all shapes and sizes these days. It can be hard to find it sometimes, or knowing exactly what you need, but it's out there and it's growing, both on the technical side, I mentioned technical and financial. There may also be motivational support. And again, being part of a network can be very helpful for that, to know and exchange with other people. And then communicating results. This helps internally with your staff, all of that. It also helps externally with your customers, with your clients, and maybe with your colleagues in business as well, because we all need encouragement and support in this journey. So there are some of the things that we have seen over the years, and we've been encouraging people to do. So what is it about EcoMerit that's that kind of distinguishes us? And one of the things here is that the certification process was designed to be practical and straightforward. There are other certification and accreditation processes around, and some of them are very good. They can be a bit complex for especially smaller business. We are quite familiar with the ISO system, for example, and it's very good, but we know that it can be complicated, and so the EcoMerit system has a lot in common with that, but is designed to be easier to implement. Credibility is important, I think, as we saw from Sinead Hickey there. Greenwashing, there's a lot of it about. Self-certification just doesn't hack it. You need somebody from outside to look at it. So the credibility there are two aspects of that. There's the credibility you get as a business if you're involved with EcoMerit, and EcoMerit is keen to ensure its credibility stands up to scrutiny. Hence, we have an oversight board that looks at what we're doing to ensure the certification process is sound. Ongoing engagement and support, we provide that, hence the 5-year framework. This is at the very minimum, there will be annual surveillances where people will be asked, what have you done? What's your plan? What have you done? What's your successes? What are your problems? How can we help you? All of that sort of stuff. Also, we're independent of suppliers, so we're not flogging any solution. You know, we know who's good and who's not so good, perhaps in the sector. So we're happy to give advice, but we don't get commission, and we're completely independent. And it's very much the journey for each individual organization, so we can help you and tailor things to that. And we have a track record. We've been doing this for a long time now. So we know what works and we know what doesn't work, because you can spend a lot of time on things that don't work. So that's a quick run through there. I'd just like to maybe raise the stakes a little bit, link back to that initial quote by Sinead in today's Irish Times about the climate action challenge that Ireland faces. We know we're doing really pretty dreadfully. We need to up our game. And we've been working with a few others, Clean Technology Centre in Cork, Change by Degrees, logos at the bottom there, to engage 10,000 SMEs over 10 years. And this can help save 1 million tonnes of greenhouse gas emissions annually by 2030. It won't solve the problem, but it'll make a big contribution to that. Interestingly, when we did the sums on the money, this would also save about 600 million euros for those 10,000 SMEs. There's a modest investment required, but it makes business sense as well as environmental sense. We're using the acronym there, CARE, Climate Action Through Resource Efficiency. And it's just to flag that the actions by each individual SME can contribute very significantly to this. So we can do an awful lot, and we can start doing it now. In very practical ways. That's one of the reasons I got involved with EcoMerit, because I saw it was a very practical way of moving forward, and we could start tomorrow. There is support available. We mentioned SEAI. There are grants available through that, and we help people through that process. Coral Leisure know about this, and I'm not sure if the Chamber have, but Thomas might tell us. And we're very engaged with the Green for Micro program. We are providing a lot of support to a lot of micro businesses in this now, and we're very pleased to see that happening. We hope that program will also develop and become more of a sustained program. At the moment, it's support for an initial review. And undoubtedly more support is on the way. It's a big government priority, we know that. So that's enough from me. I'll now hand over to people who are part of the EcoMerit community who can talk about their experiences. And first up will be Thomas McHugh from Cork Chamber, and then Margo Krempska from Coral Leisure. So I will depart this screen now and see what happens.
Well, thanks very much, Bobby, and thanks for setting the scene so well there, and thanks also to Kieran and Harry for having me on the call today. And look, I suppose what I just want to do is, I suppose, explain our journey with EcoMerit, our journey on sustainability, and how it all fits together, and why our work with EcoMerit is so important to us on that front. So look, I suppose the chamber, we've been, I suppose, from an advocacy perspective, from across all of our lobbying and engagement activity over for a good number of years, we've always been pushing a sustainable agenda. But I suppose over recent years, we've very much formalized that and brought it into a very overt way, and a very influential way across everything that we do, including our internal operations. For example, in 2019, we signed up to actively pledge to support in every way that we could the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And we picked 5. We picked decent work, climate action, industry innovation, sustainable cities and communities, and gender equality. And I suppose the reason I want to emphasize that is because I suppose from a chamber perspective, sustainability isn't just about green, it's not just about energy, it's about the whole picture of sustainability, you know, which includes, you know, things like access to decent work, access to decent education, you know, quality. The SDGs are very global on their interpretation of equality, for example, whereas in Ireland, where we have the luxury of being a bit more nuanced and being able to push a more progressive policy agenda than maybe other countries, and you know, everyone has a role to play in that. We also, I suppose, in 2019, at the height of the pandemic, we launched a program called the Sustainable Cork program, which we felt we had a lot of sustainability things happening that were all very disparate. We wanted to bring them together and put more coherence to that. And we launched this program. We surveyed about 1,000 people across our membership. We got a massive, rich mandate, heaps of detail, everything from the types of accommodation they'd like to see in the city through to the aversion to the spraying of chemicals and grass verges, you know. So this hugely rich mandate to push a sustainable agenda. And we've been evolving that over 2020, and we've been including things like training and webinars, and we've been trying to push a progressive agenda there too. But I suppose the reason I kind of painted that picture is because within all of that, it's essential for us to be a credible contributor to the sustainable agenda rather than an organization that talks about it, okay? And that's something that is crystal clear for us, and it is often a subject that guides intense, you know, debates around how we approach things, and you know, and ultimately the benchmark or the bottom line is this needs to be real. So then I think maybe people don't understand about the chamber is we are actually, as an entity, an NGO, and we're an SME. We have about 20 people working in the chamber. So we were looking and we were saying we want to do all these things internally. We've done loads of things internally, but we've no idea what impact they've had. How do we actually put some metrics and precision around this? How do we actually, I suppose, you know, how do we actually quantify the journey we're on internally? And how do we excite people about it? Because, you know, if you're just talking in the abstract about reducing the number of car journeys the company takes or whatever, it's in no way, shape or form stimulating. It's in no way, shape or form competitive. And you've got no baseline as regards whether or not you've been successful. So, you know, using our, you know, ear to the ground and good knowledge of sustainability space, we engaged with EcoMerit, and for us as an SME, with tons of intent, but as I described, you know, we're an SME like any other SME. We probably have a list of reasons why we wouldn't do something longer than the list of reasons why we would. So you have to find and partner with a program that works for you. And for us, we identified it, EcoMerit, and we haven't been disappointed. It's been a fantastic journey. We started working, Bobby, I was trying to look back through our records. It might have been 2016 or 2017. It's neither here nor there, but we've been working with EcoMerit for a number of years now. And we've saved, again, there's no point in saying specific figures. We've saved thousands of euros over those years, and we've cut tons of CO2, tons and tons of CO2 out of our small footprint as a small company. Just to give an example of the types of things, again, okay, we have a very old building. Again, the odds are stacked against us, you know, again, all the reasons why you wouldn't do something. But actually we found efficiency at every turn. Simple things like energy timers and I have a list and I have to read it because I'll never remember all these, right? energy savings on our water timers, flow restrictions on our water taps, adjusters in the cistern. Adjusters in the cistern is no more advanced than putting bottles of water into your cistern to reduce the amount of water you're using. I mean, it's literally costs nothing. Temperature monitoring, we use all of our cleaning products or EcoVer. Again, like this is just the type of stuff that's so doable. I mean, you're looking at bottles of bleach around the building, you know, a number of years back, and now we've got eco-friendly products. Energy notice signage, so literally on our light switches, it says, you know, have a think before you turn this on. You know, does it need to be on? Is it a bright day? The decrease in our waste pickups. This has been huge. We've been segmenting our waste very actively. Again, it's always a topic of discussion in the kitchen. Which bin is this going in? But no one would dare want to be the person who's putting it in the wrong one. Again, massive cost saving there. And even I was even thinking about it, like, so there's the cost saving and there's the decrease in waste creation. But also, as I was thinking even this morning, going back through all this, like the runs of the trucks that are collecting the waste, they're not driving around the city coming to us unnecessarily, which is very encouraging. Again, just like things like again, all the small things, but all the small things matter, as we know. Like, we do not use small packets of biscuits anymore. We do not use sachets of sugar. We do not use sachets of butter or things like that. It's positive waste reduction. Then all the things we do externally, we have our events. We have hundreds of thousands of people come to our events every year. We ban plastic bottles, like we won't allow them. You know, even the symbolism of that is important. If you've got a panel of 5 people and they're all sitting there sipping a plastic bottle, that sends a message, you know, actually, and it's a very poor message. So there's that symbolism, but there's also the practicality of reducing the waste on the spot. And again, hospitality is a hospitable sector. Like, they want everybody to leave with a paper cup full of warm coffee when they leave the venue. And maybe some of our members would prefer to have that cup of coffee walking out the door, but we ask that it's actually not provided unless someone has their own takeaway containers. We have the bike scheme for the staff. I think that's really good. Like, so I do it all the time. I mean, it's just efficient. It's good for you. It's good for the environment. But we have it in Cork and in Dublin, and I think that's key. So we go to Dublin, we get the train, and then we hop on a Dublin bike and go to government buildings or wherever we're going. And you know, that's just great. It's just such a great way to travel. We just see CO2 monitoring across all of our travel. Again, that's a place where we've been very significantly able to cut. And again, once you put it in place, it just gives everyone that pause for thought. Like, you know, maybe someone who might have just out of force of habit driven to Dublin. Now the train, it's almost without ever saying it, it's almost a bit of a name and shame. It's a cultural change. We've also signed up to the All Island Pollinator Plan, which again, you know, all these small things matter. We have space on our property and it is being planted with Indigenous planting and it is not being sprayed. And yeah, it's just again important. We have a bug hotel. You got to have a bug hotel these days. We have a charger for an EV, which we didn't have. I'm sure that's going to become very commonplace, but again, there's a point of being there early. And yeah, meter readings are ongoing. We've moved to green energy providers again. Like, there's probably no better way to stimulate the renewable energy sector than to demand green energy, right? It's a huge piece for us. So look, there's all of that, and we've worked with Bobby at every step and the team, and they come in and they hold us to task and they ask us why we've not done this or why we've not done that. And ultimately, though, what they do is they make us crunch the numbers, but they make us crunch numbers that are meaningful to us. And I think that's what's really important. And just by way of finishing, I just want to say, we work in 3-year cycles strategically. Come up a level from the switches and the stickers and the EV charge point. We have a strategic plan that we're producing. It'll be launched very soon for the next 3 years. And I suppose it wouldn't be appropriate until the point of launching to go, well, maybe not everyone's that interested in what's exactly our strategic plan. But I just want to say it's heavily, fundamentally, our strategic direction is guided by sustainability. And I think any company that wants to be showing thought leadership has to make that happen, and certification is a very important part of that. So that's me, and just to say thank you for the opportunity to just tell that story today.
That's great. Thanks for that, Thomas. Fantastic insights. Margo, over to you if you're ready.
Ready to go? Just sharing my presentation there. So I want to say welcome to everybody. It's a massive honor for me, and especially massive recognition, I believe, for me personally, but also for my colleague Becky, which is now working with EcoMerit in Cobh. But it's also a massive recognition for all 9 centres all over the island, and especially Camillus Muldowney, which is pretty much involved in any of the 9 buildings and any of the suggestion of the EcoMerit. So our journey started actually way back. So it started with a very simple idea on a green club, which I created in 2012, and it was just simply put a focus on a summer camps to the kids about recognizing cans, recognizing trash, and also give them some insights of how to save the planet, and also competition of the drawing. And after that, I was introduced by one of the Cobh council member, Maggie, to field worker, and our journey with field workers started right there. Very quickly, field start to put and implement with me some of the very easy and simple ways of how to check the building and how to check and recognize what's going on in the building on a daily basis. So we went back to a few of the years, and very quickly, because on 2015 we was already working on a CAI grant. We got the grant on a massive number of the 60,000 euro for LED, which was basically implemented in 2016. Even if the grant wasn't used fully, we still believe that we still feel the results of that first grant. Me and Phil was able to implement into our leisure center. That was the moment also when the EcoMerit was recognized by not only Cobh, but also I introduced it to our Coral group all over the island, and all of the centers in Ireland start to work with EcoMerit slowly and make the progression. It doesn't mean that we still not learning. Our journey still continue, and all of the centers are working really hard to do that. So we are still on a learning process, and we will never gonna say that we know everything. That's why we do need the support of the EcoMerit on a constant level, because it's very professional and engineer discussions over there, and a brainwash and insight as well. So during that time, the most intensive time for us, so from 2016, we not only had an LED, but we also get the jackets for our heating pumps. I also signed up us into the refill. We are still working on a plastic, reducing number of the plastic, but staff start to get involved. So it's not only we as behind, as a management was working on it, but we also start to do some involvement of the staff of the Coral Leisure, and this way we was able to start to convince, not saying it was convinced completely, but we start to convince our customers also to participate in that very noble idea. So what changed for us mostly was our NOP, so normal operation procedures, and we started to control on a daily basis what is going on in the building. That means we was able to recognize, for example, leaks in the pipes, or extensive usage of the energy somewhere, so somebody didn't turn off the light. And we also start to recognize the importance of coverage for even our pool, and one day of the coverage and not being put in, it costs us money, and we start to recognize this, because even if it's, like Thomas says, it's small things, but if you're going to combine them together over the year, you actually can see the thousands in your pockets. And I'm saying this as from the company point of view. I personally do believe that my company is my second home, so basically I'm treating the same way. So we are very conscious of that as staff members right now, and we start to see the small things which EcoMerit teach us on being focused on the small details as a normal procedures for us already. It was very overwhelming, the number of the things we had to change, but now it's just basically very easy to do that. From the 2018, we already start to see a difference on the BMS and CHP, and we changed also the stratifications funds, which make a massive difference on the humidity in our center. During the pandemic, we are much more focused on our waste usage and working with our customers on that, because everything else was done and we was basically maintaining what we was having. However, the obvious reason not making that much money pull us out a little bit from our plants. The plants are still there. We just basically try to maintain what we could, and we did with the resources we got from the grant and with the help of the council. The basics are very simple. We started from the gas, energy, water, and waste. However, what's changed for us over the years from the 2012, when I just introduced the Green Club, was we introduced to our customers a longer opening hours. Footfall nearly doubled, not only for us, but for also the rest of the leisure centers. And also we started from the 6 centers at that time. And during that time, another 3 centers joined our family of the Coral Leisure. That means we are not thinking only just by the Cobh, we're thinking globally altogether. Now I'm going to present you a little bit of what we have about our insights of how we're reducing and how actually is participating in the reduce of the HDDs, of the footfall, what kind of implementation it has. However, if you're looking on the graph, I really want to encourage you to take on board that the footfall actually changed massively for us during that few years. And obviously, because of the footfall change and because of the number of the hours of our center is using right now is slightly different. The electricity usage and the water, for example, and gas usage changed as well. However, as you can see about the water usage for the previous years and also electricity, it's still going down. So even if the gas is still maintainable, water and electricity is visibly going down. And we cannot imagine at this moment of 2021 what would happen to our electricity, gas, and water bills or when the footfall is so big and the number of the hours are so increasing, the staff number is increasing as well. What would happen with our money spending on this one? So what happened physically? If somebody thinks that doing simple stuff for the planet will not going to bring them a money, they are mistaken, because we was able already to save over 25% for our budget. And also we put the tons on the carbons down as well, just in our center. So if you're saving over 25%, we could actually implement this money to something else. And this slide is showing you not only the Cobh, but everybody else are doing the same great job. Obviously, along the way, we had to do some renovations. We had to have some crash in the buildings all over the island, but still we was able to either keep the level of the usage of the electricity, gas, or for example, water on some level, or we was able to keep it down and put it down altogether. So what's happening next for Coral Leisure? We're still looking forward to have, with the help, of course, of the EcoMerit, another CA extended grants. We are looking forward to reach zero carbon production. That's the plan of the Camillus, and I believe he can do it because he's an amazing person. We also are looking for changes on the buildings, or for example, heat pumps. We definitely want to have finally PV panels. And the most important now is bring down the single plastic usage. However, my advice for all of the companies which wasn't that lucky as us and did not start to work with EcoMerit so early, start small, think big, and get a structure. Because without the structure, without convincing every single person of your company that the small things matter, like for example, checking the water usage, gas usage, and electricity usage, not monthly, not weekly, but every single day, can give you the insight of where do you have leaks and what you can do to upgrade that very simple and very cheaply at the start, which will gonna give you a profit or bring you savings along the way. So it's very easy to make changes. However, don't do changes straight away. I was at the start of working with EcoMerit convinced that I can bring the PV panels into the building already in 2014 and 15, and it didn't work. We wasn't recognized at all. The capability which EcoMerit is bringing along the way is giving us as a company a capability to fight for the PBA's panels right now and for the grant for it. We didn't have that opportunity before. So small steps and get a good partner. And this slide was chosen by me, especially to show you that even like on the first picture with repairing the doors, or for example using the pump, I just want to prove you that we really in Cobh Leisure Centre working together, not only on repairing and getting involved in the building, but also to bring that into place what EcoMerit is recommending to us. So I hope you enjoy that. I'm gonna stop my presentation now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Margo. Really interesting presentation, and I just want to congratulate you on managing to convince your staff to enter a plant room, which is an achievement in and of itself. Again, just coming back to housekeeping, folks, if you have any questions at all, pop them in the chat function and we'll get to them. But I suppose maybe, Bobby, to go to you first with a higher level fundamental question, I guess, which goes to the quote you had included in your presentation from the Irish Times today. You know, we're seeing lots of activity, talk, certainly in large publicly listed organizations. There's investor pressure. You know, we can look at things like Shell, hostile investors and things recently where they're forcing the climate action agenda. You know, if I'm an SME looking at the sustainability and climate action sphere at large, and maybe saying to myself, I don't necessarily need this doesn't need to be my top priority. How quickly do you see them needing to act? I suppose, you know, essentially if you're an SME and you're in a supply chain of a large business, that pressure is going to come pretty quickly, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you put your finger on a really good point here, that probably most SMEs say that sustainability, environmental improvement is really important. It just may not get to the top of the list very often. And we know that. That's the reality of small business and most business. So, but for small business in particular, by the end of the week, Friday comes and you haven't got to that number 6 on the list. And that's why we have sort of designed the system to fit in with that, recognizing that. So that's the reality. It is going up the agenda though. It's going up the agenda in a number of ways. First of all, customer demand. Customers want to see this, and businesses that are ahead of the pack and have good environmental credentials are more appealing to a wide range of customers, whether it's county councils who will now be implementing more green procurement, whether it's people choosing their leisure centres or people choosing a coffee. You know, it's becoming more important there. Similarly, what we hear a lot about is about attracting and keeping the right staff. Especially younger, the younger people that people may see as their future, they want to know they're joining an environmentally, let's say, friendly company. Maybe more than environmentally friendly. So that is flagged as, that's what we hear. That's what people are saying to us. So they I think are 2 big ones. The other ones that we've just had one major client more or less came rushing in the door because of investors and this ESG requirement, environmental, social and governance. I think I've got that right, acronym soup. But the requirement to satisfy investors, and I think that's going up the list. So, you know, procurement, investment, staff and customers, these are all big reasons, as well as your daughter or son who's nagging you and saying, hey, Dad, what are you doing to save the planet?
Sure.
The nagging power, that can be quite big as well.
Don't underestimate that for sure, yeah. Bobby. Okay, I suppose, Margo, maybe to you, and look, you've touched on it in your presentation, but some practical tips on how best to get going on this journey if you're an SME at the beginning of this process?
Be consistent. This is probably the best advice that EcoMerit gave me at the start. Be consistent on what you're doing, and definitely get on a checkup of the building and where you're working. So it's not only what you can see, but also the pipes underneath and around. And consistency actually brought us to the point that we really was able to save a lot of money, and it was easier to convince based on that, like I said before, staff and customers. For example, during that journey, Bobby, you will be glad to hear probably as well, I personally got involved in allotment, and I do have already some my part in a pollination of the planet as well. It's a big thing right now, and we actually start to implement that also into the younger generation, like I said, into the clubs. But yeah, that will be the word everybody needs to remember, because it's consistency and structure, how to get that consistency, because that's what every company needs the most.
Super, thanks, Margo. Thomas, then maybe to you. You've run through fairly extensively the list of activities and actions Cork Chamber has taken, and you know, you've all three participants today spoken to the benefits, I suppose, of this kind of approach. But as an organisation, Thomas, has Cork Chamber had any unexpected additional benefits, maybe that you know weren't firmly visible at the outset?
No, I think definitely. I think they're probably two things, and one of them is actually something that when Margo said it made me think of it, and I didn't mention it, is like the influence it's had on the team. Like, so there's a group of people came together maybe who are interested in this space, who've driven it on, if you want to think of it that way. They're from every corner of the Cork Chamber professional team, and I suppose the gelling of that, so you've got a multidisciplinary team within a team, so that's kind of brings cohesion across the team, and actually great pride because so much has been achieved, you know, and the people who've truly put in the work, you know, have that pride of having made that categorically proven achievement. I think the other thing is just a degree of confidence. So it's like anything. If there's any aspect of your business that you're not confident in, then you won't want to talk about it. So whether that's you don't like your business card or your website, right through to the service you provide or something. So for us, we knew we had the aspiration, we knew we were doing good things, but we had no way of speaking categorically about it. And I think for us, it's the confidence. If someone came to us in the morning and said, do you walk the walk? We would say, yes, as an SME, we believe we do, and here's why. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, great answer. Margo, I guess again, maybe one that is possibly most relevant to Coral Leisure, I guess, as a business heavily impacted by the pandemic. There's a question here from Cletfin, which is, you know, has the pandemic been a setback to your efforts to become more energy efficient? Significant business disruption for you in particular, obviously, given the sector you're in. How have you managed that? Have you managed to keep, I suppose, the momentum going? And what have you, I suppose, what approaches have you taken to keep efforts going?
We are very lucky because we have two massive supporters. The first one is the council, because we are a management company, and the second is the EcoMerit. And we do have also support of the staff, which is very often overlooked. But what we was doing over that time, like I said before, we was trying to maintain what we have already, and we also tried to get ready for when we were going to reopen for the CAI grants. So the process is speeding up because we use that time, that's 15 months, to basically have that on hand and work much more farther for that. We were able to actually upgrade some of our issues which we didn't have a time to upgrade before, also about the pumps and also about the isolations. So that still happened. And actually, I believe the guys from the companies, engineer companies, which are showing up and to do that, says they are becoming our friends, because we was like seeing them every day. even on the periods of time when this leisure center was of course open. But they was really trying to focus on to help us out when they could, because they knew it could be another delay. What we did work on, even behind the scene and just from our homes, is we was having a massive brainstorms all over the 9 centers about what we can do when we will be back on a daily basis. And that was the reason why we changing slowly even how our reception is working. We're changing slowly amount of the paper which we're using right now. So we went online during that time as well. So majority of the even simple stuff like a memberships doesn't have to be filled out at the reception. I know it sounds slightly like small, but one raise of the paper right now, less being used over the month, that's a massive success for us, because that means it's minimum 12 over the year. And that's how we're thinking right now. So we're doing anything what we can behind the scene, thinking from our homes, meeting on a Zooms, and it's actually working. We really was prepared. So we was very lucky over this few months.
Okay, thank you. Bobby, maybe back to you. I suppose, you know, for sure, there are lots of accreditation schemes out there, and you've touched on ISO obviously as being, I guess, the recognized international standard, whether it be energy, environment, or quality, I suppose. But you know, taking it back to a smaller company size, I guess that kind of approach can be pretty daunting, and it is pretty daunting, but by the nature of how those ISO standards are structured, compliance focused obviously as much as performance and results focused, and you touched on that. I mean, just within that scheme of thought, is there an ideal company size you'd have in mind for EcoMerit? And you know, I suppose, what does the average EcoMerit member look like?
I think this is like the answer about statistics, the beauty of them. I mean, we have some very small enterprises, some with very small number of staff. There could be small art centers, small businesses, but equally we have large. I mean, one of the best known places probably in Ireland is Dundrum Town Centre. That's an EcoMerit member. Now, it's not actually that huge an enterprise, but it's a big, it's a big, well, it is a big enterprise, but the company behind it is relatively modest staff numbers. But still, there are others. There are some major hospitals that are EcoMerit members as well. And really, I mean, the things, the energy wastewater, I mean, that's what most organizations, if you're using a significant amount of energy wastewater and you're spending more than a few €1,000s a year on those, then you've got scope for making significant savings. But not everybody wants to go in there just for the cost savings. I mean, that's a big business case. Quite a lot of people want to be doing the right thing and to demonstrate to others that they're doing the right thing. And that's what the green environmental credentials can do. And we're pretty keen. I mean, the other thing is, if you don't do what's required, you leave. We don't accept that people will be not performing. Now, how they perform is one thing, but the main thing about the performance is that they actually report. They look at their plans, they report on their plans, and they look at how to improve it. So the biggest reason for people to be, let's say, kicked out of the EcoMerit scheme is not responding and not doing the work. So you will know if you look on the EcoMerit website at any of those members that they are following up on the stuff that they've said they'll do. You can see from Margo's brilliant statistics, even within Coral Leisure, the variation between centres was quite significant because each centre is different in terms of size, location, configuration, building, you know. So it's not that we're looking for a standard performance target. We're looking for, if you like, a way of behaving. It's almost more like a behavior target. And I must say, I'm going away from this with two wonderful quotes, one from Margo, start small, think big, and be structured, and from Thomas about the quantitative journey that was mentioned earlier. Numbers matter, and numbers and measurement matter.
For sure. And I guess maybe rounding out the Q&A, one interesting question from Dave Ludgate here, and there are murmurings, I guess, from a policy perspective that this kind of thing is going to come down the track, and it will have to. But to all of you, I guess, when do you think it will become mandatory for organizations to monitor and report their GHGs, not just large and publicly listed organizations? It's ask Eamon Ryan. Yeah, good answer, Bobby. Yeah, look, I suppose it's testament maybe to starting this journey earlier rather than later, because this kind of thing is going to come down the track. And Thomas articulated very well, I think, actually, metrics, numbers matter when you're communicating. So yeah, look, I think we'll round it out at that. I'll just get to the closing remarks. A great event. Thank you all very much to our speakers this afternoon, Bobby, Thomas, and Margo, for their time, effort, and insight into this topic. If you'd like to follow up on anything mentioned, do feel free to contact Bobby to discuss. As ever, thanks to Cork City Council and Cork County Council for their continuing support via their economic development funds, and thanks to you all for tuning in and engaging with the discussion. If you have any feedback on this event or would like to discuss speaking at a future briefing, do not hesitate to contact us. A recording of the event will be made available at the Energy Cork website shortly, and we'll issue an email to let you know that it's up there. Finally, our next Energy Cork lunchtime briefing will take place on Thursday, the 15th of July. It will feature Cork-based DP Energy speaking on the topic of pioneering renewable energy to create a sustainable local economy. Invites for this will be circulated shortly. So do make sure you're on the mailing list and keep an eye on our Twitter and LinkedIn for details of how to register. Yeah, look, thanks to all, Bobby, Margo, Thomas, fascinating insights, and thanks to you all for joining today. See you all soon.
Thanks, Harry.